Hey guys, welcome back to Seller Sessions. Today I bring in Athena Severi. How you doing?
Hi, Danny. I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me. It's such an honor to be here today.
No worries. Do you want to give the audience a little bit of background on yourself?
Sure. So I am naturally a connector. I love people. I love creating communities. I am the founder of a trip called China Magic, which is a sourcing trip to China. I've also put on cruises and events of all different types because I know the power of networking and connecting people.
Cool. So today, again, that's what we're going to talk about is network effects. I mean, I can draw pretty much every step of the way from 2015 when I started up to when I met you through, other relationships through networking. So I want you to explain today to people what I see and what you see and the importance, because I think people can really miss out when they're just sitting sedentary at home behind their computer screen. Is getting out there, meeting people, connecting with people, sharing with people makes a massive difference in help of growing your business. So first question is, talk to me about building relationships with other sellers.
Absolutely. So you go about it the same way you would with anything. You want to get to know the person in front of you. You want to be genuine. You want to see, how am I able to help that person? What things do we have in common? You talk about things other than business and you really connect on a level where you build trust. And I think that that is really key.
Yeah, no, totally agree with that. And in terms of, people getting out and going places, I always say to people, if you don't have a budget, go and find your local meetup on meetup.com. That's exactly how I started in 2015. All the people that we know, there was a room for the people, and a chunk of those were in that room in 2015 when I turned up to the Amazon seller meetup, which I then went on to co-run. And then off the back of that, I were finished there, and me and Richard met and we started seller sessions. It was a great start to where we are now. So I've gone from speaking to a small group of people to now being booked around the world as a public speaker. So I'm very,
Right.
very privileged, but that has all been built off the back of networking. So talk to me about your take on, the small meetups, going for coffee, and then we can compare that to like the full-blown conferences.
Sure. And that's exactly what happened with me. I met a few Amazon sellers. We go for coffee here and there. We actually like to call it hashtag work party, where it sounds a lot more exciting than it is. It's a bunch of us around a table and we're working, but we're able to communicate with each other. And that was sort of the spark. And then from there, I'd invite people to my home, or we go to a restaurant, and that built up to where we would, I put on a full cruise for 70 people just because I thought it would be a great idea to get everyone connected. So you don't have to go to very exotic masterminds. You can start off with a coffee shop. However, you can also there's many different ones around the world that are not costly. You can start to connect with people and meet people. It's quite easy.
Yeah. So let's talk about another thing, not just with like sellers. I think people miss a trick with networking with your suppliers, because you could be dealing with supply chain, domestically in the UK, US, go and see them. I go and see my suppliers here in the UK. And equally, it's the same with China, because quite often everything is transactional across email or maybe on a
Yeah.
WeChat, etc. But there's nothing quite like building that relationship when you go to China with your supplier, because I think that's a lot of times where people actually ends up getting terms. We all talk about cash flow and we all talk about getting terms, but who's going to give someone terms at the other end of an email? They want to be able to look you in the eye. So with your background with China Magic and stuff, what kind of results have you seen there?
It's absolutely huge. I know that at least in the Chinese culture, you're either family or you're not. And I feel that that's actually the same in any culture. When you really build a real relationship where there's actual trust and there's future and you are one. I think this is a very interesting concept, is like when we go to China and we ask the suppliers, what are you looking for? They're looking for partners. They're looking for someone that they can build a future with, a brand with, where they can communicate to you and you can communicate with them. And when you have that type of relationship, a lot of incredible things happen. Innovation, being able to get really special terms. Also, when it comes to priorities, like if they've got several other people that they're working with, but you've actually come to visit with them, you've spent time with them, you've shared a meal with them, who do you think that they're going to go that extra mile for? So whether it's sellers that you're connecting with at a meetup, or it's your supplier, or whoever it is, when you really put yourself forward and really build that relationship, it makes all the difference in the universe.
Yeah. And I think as well is that people are not always aware is that you're dealing with your manufacturer. There comes to a time, if you go and meet them face to face, you get on well. Maybe you get on well with the son or the daughter that owns the factory, and then that relationship goes from being a supplier to being a partner. And then you start to team up on products. I've seen it many times over. We've got mutual friends that have factory deals in place. I've promoted on seller sessions for factories to reach out over the last couple of months, and I've had a lot of inquiries, and it's good to build those relationships because that helps take what I do on to a different level and going through different angles rather than just that general, you're the supplier, we'll purchase products from you, you put down 30%, then you pay the 70% balance, and that's the end of the transaction. You can get better relationships if you put the effort in to go and see your supply chain.
Absolutely. I'll give you an example of the power of networking in China. I met a lady who does jewelry. She has a factory in the jewelry, and it's not something that I was interested in, but, I connected with her. We built a nice rapport, and I said, hey, if you know anyone in the yoga accessory space, please let me know. So she actually connected me with a supplier that changed my business on Amazon. It was absolutely incredible. And I stayed in touch with the original young lady who had the jewelry factory. Well, recently she actually met someone who is working with the Chinese government and has an entire world of factories, that you would not find on Alibaba. They're not on the grid. This is a really special connection that if I hadn't built that rapport with the original young lady, she would have never connected me with this gentleman. This gentleman is now connecting people that come to my trip with factories that are just completely off the grid and are game-changing factories. So that is the power of maintaining decent relationships, and especially when you're open and kind to people, it's incredible what happens.
Yeah, indeed. The other thing I want to talk about, which is very big and popular in the US, more so in the UK, obviously we talk about it, but mastermind groups. I mean, people know on the show I can't stand the word mastermind. It sounds very pretentious, but there isn't no other way of explaining, people getting together, like-minded people that, and sharing information together. And, a lot of the time that a lot of these are paid, it's put behind a paywall, but I always encourage people to start their own. I mean, in April, it's come up to 3 years. I've got 22 people in my group. It's never been paid for. It's totally free, but it's about handpicking some of the best brains. And I feel, and I can't confirm this, it's only from the other groups and stuff I've seen, I've probably got the biggest collective of Amazon sellers, like in terms of super technically advanced people all under one roof. And that's just been built slowly but surely with no look for return. And the guys in the group, even though I have a rule in there that, the only rule is everyone is private about what they share, outside of the group. And the second rule is that I don't want to turn it in some Ponzi scheme where people throwing affiliate links in there. I want it kept clean. If you want to do a business deal, which some have created partnerships, you can do that separately. I mean, in the early days, someone reached out to me, and I'm not going to name them, who's in the group, who wasn't doing particularly well. And basically, I brought him into the group to give him a leg up so that he could expand, because I could see where he's talented. I could see what he was doing, but he was having a rough time, and everyone needs a leg up. And I said, look, I'm going to let you in. I know the situation that you're in at the moment. Use this opportunity to get back on your feet and get momentum, because I think you get those cycles in business, don't you? When things are not going too well, you lose your confidence. And I think he had an issue where he's losing a bit of confidence. He was losing his way. And for me, it was like, but you're really talented in what you do. You've got a lot to offer to the group. So it works on two ends of the spectrum. Someone could be struggling and you can give them a helping hand. And for me, that's part of the whole pay it forward. Um, what is your take in, because there's obviously lots of masterminds in the US. What have you,
Sure.
some of the benefits have you've seen?
Well, exactly what you described. I mean, here's the truth. What we do isn't normal. To be an entrepreneur, the word itself is defined by someone who takes great risk in business ventures. So there are a lot of times where you'll have your ups and your downs, and having a group of like-minded people to support you is massive. Also, if you're having a certain issue, let's say your account gets shut down, you have a group of people that you can connect with and say, hey, do you know of someone that can help me with such and such? When you're in a room together and you guys, here's a really good example. Look at all of these issues that people have been having with launching and with reviews, right? You've got a group of really special, like-minded people who are trying to help each other succeed as a team. Maybe some of them are brilliant with technical algorithm type things. Maybe someone else is very good with social media. Everyone's got their strength, and they're sitting in the room and they're like, yeah, well, what if we did such and such, and then we did this way, and then that way an idea blooms that would have never happened if you're only by yourself with a guy who's extremely technical. So that's what I try to communicate when I'm talking about synergy. It's not just about having fun and having coffee with people. We're talking about how do we create a future where we're able to play the game well, play the game right, help each other, and in turn, build a community of people that lift each other up. And just one more point on that, on the lifting up. I've noticed that mindset is so massive when it comes to being an entrepreneur. And when you're positive and when you're thinking clearly and freely, you're able to accomplish so much more. And we deal with so much negativity when it comes to the opposition with our business. Sometimes our own family do not understand us, or there could be people in our life that are negative. And having people in your life who are positive, who can lift you up in those moments, that by itself is so valuable. So sometimes you might not think you're like a $100 million seller, but really just being supportive and open and helping people in your group, in turn, people want to help you. And that's where all the magic happens.
Indeed. So that takes me to another point, is I always talk about paying it forward. And
Yes.
it's not always easy to explain to people what pay it forward means and how it works. And the kind of conclusion I've come to is, when someone doesn't understand what pay it forward means, it's generally because it's not that they don't understand, it's just they're not the sharing type, they're more closed.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, their mindset might be, yeah, but if I give away too much, then I've given away the keys to the kingdom. Or someone might take advantage of that. And I think the
Right.
problem is that we've discussed before. You're always going to have people that take the piss, but the ones that take the piss, you block them out, because they see you coming. They go, oh, look, they're a bit easy about, how they do business or how they help people. Do you see what I mean? And they might look
Right.
to take advantage because they think
Mm-hmm.
it's a weakness, or they think you're stupid. But,
Right.
for me, pay it forward is, I try my best to help as many people as I can. And I
Yes.
don't sit there with a spreadsheet trying to work out the numbers on, right, that person there owes me this favor. Because you just
Right. You
do
just
it
don't.
and it's done,
Mm-hmm.
and then you move on. But what I have found, if I ever need anything, my black book, I pick up the phone, and 99% of them people go, it's Dan, our answer. Because I've done something for them before, which is completely unconditional. Does that make
Exactly.
sense? So I don't sit there and go, well, that person there, he owes me a favor. That lady there owes me a favor. You just do what you can to help people. But I think people become concerned with that because it exposes you. But I think you have to allow for that, because the good that comes from paying it forward, the returns, inadvertently, are massive compared
Mm-hmm.
to the ones that take advantage. I've actually even seen people use pay it forward as a tactic, but you can see right through it. It just
Absolutely.
really, disingenuous and poor. You can spot disingenuous people from a mile off. Most people can smell them. It's very simple. You can see the way their body language and how shady they are and stuff like that. But you've got to look at the whole positive side of it. And I know that's a big thing for you. When
Huge.
you're doing things, it's not all transactional. And I think sometimes as an entrepreneur as well, getting onto being transactional, you've got to be careful. Is not everything has a price or a number next to it. So
Mm-hmm.
what's your take on, the whole pay it forward, the non-transactional relationships through money?
Right. Well, I will tell you that you really hit the nail on the head, because for me, for like 3 years, I would put on these things for absolutely nothing. I mean, we co-hosted a holiday event for nothing.
Yeah,
It's just, the thing is, when you do genuinely help people and you're not doing it for any other reason, you can feel it. And I think that's why you attract such incredible people to seller sessions and in your group. And I feel the same way about the people I bring on my trips and I surround myself with. I have people that take, 10 to 12 days out of their life to just sit there and pay it forward and help change lives. And that's what we do. So I think that you can tell if somebody isn't trustworthy. And it's very simple. This is how I go about my life. I trust everyone until they give me a reason not to.
yeah.
And I
You give
open my
people
heart.
you give them the benefit of the doubt.
The benefit of the doubt, I love and try to help as many people as I can. And if you see that person, needs help, you help them. But there are, some people that are not that way, and it's a bit sad because they isolate themselves. But I think when you hand select, like in your group, what you do is brilliant. I think it's very important to be selective when you're going to be very, very open and sharing of your inner everything. But you can very easily develop that trust with people when you're open with them. You can tell what kind of person they are very
Yeah,
easily.
yeah. No, I mean, it just goes back to the whole thing with networking is I want people to understand that, you can have like stigma around it. Oh, it's just a
Yeah.
load of, people hanging out together. I'd rather be working over here. But I think it just brings a lot to the table, and, it's good to build relationships with like-minded people. And that's not always easy to find, especially if, as I said earlier, if you,
Yes.
if you spend all your time in your house in front of your computer and you don't get out, then
Right.
you're not going to get a chance to meet people. So it's important to, even if you start small, maybe you're not very chatty, you might not be an extrovert or etc. But
Yeah.
going out to these places like these meetup groups, they're kind of, they're very helpful. I noticed that especially people when they're starting their journey on Amazon, they can easily fall off because of product selection, and it can be really tough for them to try and understand all the dynamics of what's going on. And
Mm-hmm.
when I started out, I remember being in all like little WhatsApp groups, and a lot, they did flame out, but they were really motivational in the sense that you're in these groups and someone's telling them the results that they had this week to keep you on the boil. Because I think it's very easy to fall by the wayside if you have problems with your products, suspensions on your accounts and stuff like that. It can be quite stressful.
Absolutely. I wanted to bring up one point regarding efficiency, because you're right. Not everyone is chatty. Not everyone is interested in going and having social relations, etc. But one thing I really would like people to think with is, when you've got different people with different skill sets, or even they have the same skill set, let's say one person spent hours doing research, or they did something a certain way and it didn't turn out right, or they solved an issue and it went really well. The amount of time and experience it took for that person to overcome that one obstacle and be able to, in 5 minutes, give you what might have taken them hours and hours and hours to figure out, that is efficiency.
Yeah,
And if in turn you are able to say, hey, you know what, I have the perfect photographer for you, or I have the perfect, freight forwarder that can help you with that one issue, because let's say you had something that you ran into 9 months ago. So that's what's really important. So whether you love, you're an extrovert like myself, or you're someone who doesn't enjoy it, if you force yourself to go and make real connections, and you do it with the purpose of truly helping everyone around you,
yeah.
the exponential growth that can happen is so big.
Yeah. The other thing that I wanted to kind of shine some light on as well, because this is not just down to networking, but I often, I see that the male to female ratio is quite men driven in our
Yes.
industry, and you kind of stand out. I mean, we've got like Michelle in our group. She's an absolute
Yes, she's
superstar. And
Michelle
I know,
Benson. Yeah.
yeah, Michelle Venton. So but you don't see, I think they're, especially with the kind of products and services that are, are offered. I think in terms of Amazon, there seems to be a much larger ratio of men. Do you find
Yes.
that it's a bit of a struggle from your perspective?
Well, it's a very interesting concept, Danny, and I'd say that different women have different perspectives on it.
Yeah,
I think for some women, they just want to be treated like everybody else. To them, it doesn't matter if they're a man or woman. They
exactly.
just want to be treated based on their brains, which I agree with 100%. However, I remember on my first trip to China that I went on someone else's trip, I was one of 3 women out of 60, and it was very obvious to me. And so, what I can say about it is that it is possible to be a mother, to be a wife, to be a woman, and a real badass entrepreneur. And I do stand up for that. I stand up for the balance. I stand up for people believing in themselves. And, there is a bit of stigma, whether we like it or not, that, women might belong in the home. I still have people to this day ask me, like, how does your husband let you travel so much? But I
Let
don't
you.
hear,
They use the words
let
let
me.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How does he
How did
allow
he?
me?
Did he let you unpin you from the kitchen? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And then on the other hand, sometimes I have to convince my friends who know me from a professional background that I'm domestic and that I am a really good cook in the kitchen and things like I have to somehow be, both.
Yeah.
And I think it's very possible. So I would love to see more women show up to these events. I'd love to see more women. In fact, at my last China event, we took a photo. There was about 26 out of 50 women. So we actually were more than 50%. And I was just so proud. So I do believe that we should stand up for that. But at the same time, I think people should also be treated with love and respect, no matter who they are, whether they're man, woman, whatever their background is, of course.
Yeah, because obviously this comes down to the networking thing. Like we said, when people go into the Canton Fair, etc., they,
Hmm.
women not wouldn't necessarily want to travel on their own. They want to feel safe. They want to be in the right kind of environment. And I think with like your events, more and more women are coming out because they're seeing what you're doing. Do you see what I
Right.
mean? And so what you got coming up? You're always doing a lot of events. I mean, do you want to just
Yes.
explain? I mean, not just Amazon events. You've done a keto event, haven't you?
Yes. I put together an event for Dr. Eric Berg, who has saved many lives through a special diet called keto. The thing is, my favorite activity, and I think people don't quite fully understand where I come from, but my happiest place is when I have a group of people and I'm able to pull in some brilliant minds. I mean, people who are just so special, like a Dan Ashburn, like yourself, like, Moshe or Ashley Thompson, or even, the doctor I just mentioned. When you've got someone like that who's got something really special to share, and you've got a group of people in that room and they're sharing, that is just so incredible. So what I've created is a site called sellerevents.com. Right now, there's just the holiday events that we'd put together, and it'll have just all the meetups, tons of free meetups, dinners. It's just a place to be able to find each other. We were just at CapCon in Dallas, and I hosted a dinner, and we actually had a table for 24 people, and we had 80 people confirmed.
Yeah.
So we had to actually change venues really quick. So we're going to be going to the 10X conference in Miami, and we're doing a meetup there. We're going to be at Funnel Hacking Live. We're going to do a meetup there. On Wednesday, January 30th at 12 p.m. Pacific time, which would be 8 p.m. in the UK, we're going to have a really lovely live call where I connect some brilliant people. You're going to be there. We've got Ashley Thompson, we've got Moshe, we've got Dan Ashburn.
Cool. And your Facebook group. Tell us about the Facebook group.
Okay, so I have this group on Facebook. It's Amazon Seller Events and Networking. Amazon Seller Events and Networking. You can join that little group. It's actually going to constantly have people looking for each other. So that's a really good way to connect. In fact, we have a whole thread of where everybody lives. So if you just go in there, it's going to be a very easy way to find each other.
Cool. That's great. Guys, thanks for joining us. Athena, thanks for joining us. If this is your first time, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you again in the next few days. Take care.